Hello, Collab Design for Literacy students. This is Marcos, and this is our first weekly recap briefing video for our class. And I'm going to be providing these to you each week in order to sum up what we did in the previous class and talk about what's expected on the assignments for the next class. And this will give you a chance to go back and just watch at your own pace and be able to be sure that you're up to date with everything and know what's going on. And it gives me a chance also to maybe provide some additional insights that I didn't provide in class. But the one thing I'm going to ask is you can never, ever play this in fast speed motion. I don't want my voice being heard sounding like a chipmunk. So you must promise that. And if you do break down ever and play this at a faster speed, you will owe me a chocolate bar. And I'll expect full payment at the next class if you commit that sin. So let's dive in and see what we're going to review for this week. Our first class session was great. It was awesome to both meet all the students in the class that were new to me and to see the students that were in my previous class. And I'm looking forward to working with everybody and in the true spirit of the name of the class, the first name of the class, Collab, to be your collaborator and to be your teacher, your art director, and your guide into making some great and wonderful projects that will push your abilities and your limits and showcase the talents and skills you have as the designers that you are already. And to do that, we have some tools to help make sure that communication is good and solid. We are using Canvas, like everyone else in the school is, of course, to have our syllabus housed, to have our resources, and also to have our assignments. And that's kind of the big purpose for Canvas is each week you'll go to Canvas and you'll be able to see, as shown here on the screen, the weekly post that has the assignment brief. Right now we have one posted, and I also have on here an undated assignment called Client Brief Dirt Overview, and I just put that on there as some just documents that showcase more about Dirt in case you want to learn more about it, or you need text, for example, for your intro page, for your presentation, and it just gives you a little more resources. But on the upcoming assignments, this will be added to each week, and it'll grow. Every week we'll have an assignment that will be due. And then when you open the assignment in Canvas, you'll get an overview of what's expected, and more importantly, you'll get some links to the Google Drive or maybe other resources. This first assignment is going to be the most text heavy. That this actually scrolls on quite a while, and what I'm doing here is kind of overviewing Dirt and talking about the project overall. I'm showcasing the first two books we did in this baby board book category to give you a better sense of what our motivations were, and to be able to give you a sense of the project parameters, and just kind of overall inspire you, almost use it like the first case study of how a baby board book would work and what makes the execution of it work well. So go through that. And also in here, I have links to YouTube videos for the page through of the other books that we looked at in class. In class, we saw a bunch of live books, and I'll bring those back next week as a resource for you to see what those look like. But I also on the screen went through different books that I'm going to do again here now, but I've got a link to that YouTube playlist that you can go on your own and look at them, because that would be a good resource to kind of get your head around what other students have done and how the books work and how they page through and how you can kind of create the best experience in your own book. So now on Canvas, typically, probably for most of you, has been the place where you submit your assignments. And if you want to submit your assignments there, you can, but where I'm going to want you to submit your assignments for sure is in the Google Drive that I've created and I've shared with everybody. And let me go back one quick thing. I'm a little paranoid about Canvas and whether I published it or not, because it looks a little different than it used to before. So if somebody there sees that it's not being published, can you Slack me or email me and let me know that it's not working? I think it is, but just in case, I wanted to put that warning out there and ask for help if needed. But okay, back to the Google Drive. This is the Google Drive that I shared with everybody. I've made all the folders actually for all the assignments. This is a 6-part assignment, which is kind of good. That means we'll kind of have a lot of time to develop this. Our first one is called Baby Board Book Part 1, Research Concept. And that's where you'll present, that's where you'll post your presentation file for next week's review in class. And that's where we'll access it during class. We'll open this up and then you'll click that and present it in front of the class. So it's going to be important that it be here as opposed to on Canvas. And also I'm going to be looking at this when grading at the end of the semester to see that you went through the process as required and you weren't a grasshopper and skipped the first couple of presentations and then just whipped up a cool, amazing baby board book without doing the process, unlike your fellow ants. So I want you all to be ants and put each step in there as asked for so that the A-making machine does not slow down, does not break down, but outputs a beautiful golden A just for you, which is the goal of the class, as well as, of course, learning and becoming friends. So make sure you use this and are diligent in keeping it updated and following through on the assignments. As I said in class, I've opened up a Slack channel and I'll post things like the notification that this video is online. I'll be sending that as soon as I'm done with this, as well as email. So make sure you join up or check your email if you don't join up. And so the first assignment, as we talked about, is to create these board books, I'll call them. And I call them board books because they're made of board, like paper board. They're nice and thick and sturdy, and they're nice and thick and sturdy for the reason of the target audience who they're made for. And they're made for infants and toddlers and even newborns. And they're made to be able to be an object that is attractive and three-dimensional and able to not just be read to or look at, but to play with or bite into. And they're meant to be these kind of objects of desire. And I think that's maybe the first kind of criteria in thinking about your concept and your design is that overall you want to think of it almost as a product or as an object that sits in a space and that needs to compete with colorful toys and just an environment of kidness. So in making this book, as we talked about in class, this is part of DIRT's effort to expand its offering. We are offering classic literature pieces that have been reimagined by other students, or we've been working on storybooks for older kids. And now we're trying to expand further into launching a line of baby board book products. We right now have just a letter and number book out, but we want to curate together a big launch for this in the near future and want to encourage you guys to do your best to make your best book. And what I didn't talk about actually that I should talk about now is the idea with the collaboration with DIRT is that if the class experience, creating a book, doing the learning you do here obviously is the objective, and that's all we have. That's exactly a great thing. And I want you to have a piece that's in your portfolio now, or is in that you can look at, 20, 30, 40 years from now as a project you did that exists, that's not digital, that doesn't disappear. But also if it goes to the next level and we ask that we collaborate with you further and offer the book as a product on our website and make an effort to market it, then we would work with you to create an agreement of royalties so that whenever we sell the book, you would get a certain percentage. And of course, the main objective is percentage also to go to give books away, but we wanted you to have something that you could gain into. So that's kind of a bigger goal that I forgot to talk about because I was too overwhelmed with so much stuff to talk about. But part of the effort with this is that you become a partner with DIRT in more ways. If we are successful in launching the product line, and if you are part of that product line, then we would set up an agreement with you to get you in on it and get royalties. So that's another motivational tool to have you do your best here, which it shouldn't be, but of course we all want that. So in looking at what this book is and to further talk about it, like again, because it is for younger kids and for infants and toddlers, and because it's meant to kind of be a experience that's not just about here, it's not really about like reading a story. That's a different kind of book. That's what we'll be doing in our second project. But it's more about like having not just a learning experience, but like a visual experience, something that helps develop visual exercises for being able to interact or understand this world that this newborn or this infant or even toddler has come into. But I think the highest level and most important thing that's going on with the interaction here is indeed the interaction between a parent and a child, or whether it's extended member of the family, a grandparent or aunt or uncle or brother, sister, or friend, or caregiver, whoever it would be. It's about this loving experience between a young human and an older adult, and creating that bond of love. That's like a big deal. Like that's a big thing that we're trying to ignite and be part of with just the small little tool. And in doing that, I think part of what we want to do is, of course, we want to engage the child in having a great experience, but we also want to motivate and inspire the adult, the grown-up, the person who we're counting on to make this interaction happen. We want to inspire them to pick it up and to be able to deliver the message, and to not just deliver it by reading these simple words in this book we're looking at here, because that wouldn't be too inspiring, or it would be just it would fall short of its full potential of inspiration. We want them to participate. We want them to engage. We all want to have the book act as a prompt for what is it that they can do in becoming the storyteller, becoming the educator, becoming the entertainer when sharing a book like this. So keep in mind that is part of the full context of what your book should be about. That you don't have to you don't have to have the pressure of everything being packaged into this book, and all the information and communication and objectives get delivered simply through the act of reading. And the act of reading is what typically we see the role of a book, but here it becomes a lot more integrated into an experience. So that's why I like this book, the Veggies, and it's because it does allow for that space for it for more to be brought to it, and it also has this kind of cool looking and interesting just aura about it. It looks cool, and you want to open it up and see what it is, and it's got a little kind of attitude to it as well, with the zany characters that come from this designer's own aesthetic or their own point of view on how to draw. We'll go through some more books after this, but let's just talk a little bit about, what is it that we need to know as designers to help us be able to properly communicate and effectively create a design that's gonna be something that's engaging for people, and for families, and for kids, and for toddlers and babies. And so to know a little bit about that is always good. And of course, you've learned this already, but the research process is like a big part of what is vital in the first steps of the design process. And here we are talking about the first steps in the human experience. And so research is kind of our in childhood a little bit, and in the design process, and we have to get all that stuff kind of downloaded as kids, and we have to start learning about things, and learning about language, and learning about culture, and learning about right and wrong. And as designers, we have to kind of enter that same experience whenever we start a new project. Like, we have to dive into what the world is that we're designing for, whether it's the subject of babies or some other topic altogether. We as designers, as being in service to others, we get to walk into worlds that we're not part of. And we have to get a good skill and ability to open our minds and learn about this world, and use our empathy, and be able to put ourselves in the position of who our audience is, or who our clients are. So we now need to get into the mindset of parenting, of being a kid. Like, we've all been kids. I don't know if any of you have been parents, but I've been a parent, or just of being a sibling, or being an uncle or aunt. Maybe you guys are uncles or aunts at this point, but try to get into the mind of that interaction that we've all seen and been part of at some level. The reading experience between, or the playing experience even, between a grown-up and a kid. So when designing for baby books, let's just get a few data points, a few objective statements to help us understand, give us like a groundwork of where to stand from, and then from there be creative and start bringing out new and smart ideas. So when we're building babies' brains with books, that means that it's really a key element of the learning experience for kids. It's like a tool, and toys are a tool as well. They're not just for fun. They're part of the learning experience. So babies' bodies and minds grow significantly over the early childhood years. In the first year, babies' brains grow more rapidly than their bodies. So we are always able to see the miracle of a baby going from this little tiny squishy thing into sitting up and crawling and starting to talk within 1 year. And that's incredibly impressive amount of growth. But when it turns out what's going on in their head and in their inside their body in terms of their cognitive abilities, that's even more rapidly growing. And that is a cue for us that between the physical and the mental, maybe even the spiritual at this point, babies and books need to be aligned together in a way that they experience that learning. So right from birth, babies should be read to on a daily basis, at least 15 minutes per day. And as I said in class, as a young father, I didn't even know this kind of data that if you don't share books, you don't share reading experiences, you don't bring kids into that world of stories and that world of touch and color and three-dimensional page turning. If they don't get a little bit of that every day, they're going to miss out significantly in their learning, and they'll be behind on their first day of school. And first day of school is not when learning starts at all. Learning starts at home with the family, and it starts at home with these kinds of activities. And 15 minutes a day now almost sounds like too little, but we want to be able to have that knowledge and know that part of the job with our book is to inspire that grown-up to pick up the book and instigate that reading experience and get them to last for 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be just your book, of course, but to make it something that they know they can do and that they actually like doing too, because I loved doing that with my kids. All right, so just to understand the landscape of our audience in terms of the kid involved in this experience, we have it broken down basically into 3 departments: newborn, someone who's just been born to about 2 months, and then after 2 months they graduate into and become an infant until the first year. So newborn and infant is within the first year, and then the toddler is from the first year to the 4th year, and these are sort of the early childhood levels. And within this level, as you can see, there's quite a big range difference between just being born and being 4 years old, ready to turn 5. And if anything, it's like we will never change and learn and grow and be different more than in this stage of the lives that we've already gone through. And knowing that means that there's just a diverse range of possibilities of what we can do with our book. And that's not to put pressure on to say, oh, then I have so much to cover and how can I do that in just, a small little book. It just means there's many places that you can focus in on, and you can look at this range of ages and this kind of different levels of learning or interest and say, I think I want to start it over here on the younger side, or I think I want to start it here on the older side, or you may even say, I want it all, and I'm just going to make it so that it kind of works, whether you're very young or whether you're older. Maybe it's a book like some of the books we've seen that you can think of as being a book you'll love even as a grown-up because you read it, you were introduced to it as a kid. But I think there might be a little bit of need to kind of specify, like, it's really best for this age. So think about that as you start developing your concepts. Some other things to know: that from birth to 12 months in that first year, the big interest, the thing that it's really all about are these 3 things: sound, words, and feelings. And that finding a way to instigate any of these things or talk about these things or showcase these things as a theme of your book is really a good place to start, and to think about, like, how can I use the idea of like expressing sounds or even motivating or inspiring or cueing the reader to make sounds or to read words out loud or to express feelings with their body. Like, if we can have that be a part of what your book does, then that's already like a really great way to know that you're targeting those earlier years and even older. Like, those things don't go away at all. And then when it comes to like vision, like, we're just so used to seeing the world the way we see it. And if we don't think about it, we just think somebody comes out of the room and they can see things and they understand the world. And it's not true. Learning or seeing or vision is a skill. And they have to, a skill that a baby has to learn. A baby needs to learn to see. So between their birth and age 3, many of a baby's vision skills will develop. And the way they develop is through exercise, and through exercising them by bringing challenges or giving things that help them practice seeing or even understand what they're seeing. So during the first 4 months of life, your baby should begin to follow moving objects with his or her eyes and reach for things. So with that in mind, that might be something you say, okay, I want my book to be about helping practice vision and giving the cue for a book to be something that can be moved around or shown or pointed at. And that's another way you can look at maybe how to niche your book in a certain way. So let's talk about these categories. The newborn, the first stage of a newborn is just the first month. And beginning to read out loud to a newborn right after birth, it brings benefits. It establishes a nurturing family routine, helping a baby feel safe and loved, and beginning a routine that will help baby be ready for school and for life. And yes, of course, getting this routine, understanding books are important, understand learning is a disciplined process is good. And that is really important, but I think it's number 2. Number 1 is the nurturing family routine and the love that's brought and expressed and cultivated. Like I want us to keep that at the top of the list. Like we're here to inspire loving relationships and families. And so keep that in mind in terms of what is that we're going to do, and don't go overboard on the academic side and make this book something that will make sure that they learn something. If they learn they love their mother and father and family, then then that's all we need to do, right? So the newborn second stage that's a 1 to 2 months, and babies at 1 to 2 months love to see faces and make emotional connections with people. It starts to click and you know, you're recognizing your parents and you're excited to see them, and they listen and they feel. And babies love books at this point with bold contrast, like black and white, vector art kind of stuff, and also actual real photos is something you might want to consider too. And then reading aloud should be like slow and exaggerated. So again, in 1 word, 2 words, a phrase, it shouldn't be once upon a time with a long story at this point. As we go into infants, the first half of infants are from 2 to 5, and babies begin to verbally respond. Now they're talking back, making cooing sounds. And so by practicing their sounds while reading together, babies figure out which sounds are important to learn and talk. So a book that has short sounds and, you know, asks for interaction, that's a great thing. And for babies or infants 2 to 5 months, they begin to teeth, their teeth start to come in as early as 2 months. And so they're like, you know, going crazy a little bit, and they're going to want to hold things and bite into the book. And again, that could be the subject for your book. Like, you know, you can do a baby board book called Bite Me, and you know, and take it from there. Like seeing a baby book that says Bite Me on it, that sounds like a dirt book to me. So that's where I want you to be as designers. Like outside of this experience of families, like think about our brand. Like, what is dirt trying to be like, and how are we trying to connect to the grown-ups, to the parents, and to have that sort of little bit of edginess would be cool. So Bite Me is a great example, and I welcome anyone to do it. And even if everybody in the entire class right now, after seeing this and hearing this, decided to do Bite Me, that wouldn't be wrong, because I bet the different 14 versions of Bite Me would all be great. But let's not do that. But I'm just saying, if you want that, it's all yours for free. Okay, so now let's go into infants that on the second half, 5 to 12 months. From 5 to 9 months, babies will regularly say words like mama, dada, baba, and more. Babies are practicing consonants and new sounds to help them talk. So again, it's getting further into the talking experience and listening experience and trying to verbalize. And from 9 to 12 months, babies will start to put their coo vowel sounds and babble consonant sounds together. And that's when the words start happening, and near to the beginning of the first year. Sometimes it takes longer. Some kids don't start talking until after they're 1. So in the spirit of that, vocabulary is kind of a big deal too. Like part of what makes young kids successful in school is just because they've been exposed to more words than other kids, or not even comparing, but just that they've been exposed to a lot of words and they have a higher understanding, and kids are able to learn things. So I remember when we were parenting young kids, we had to remember, like, no, we don't have to talk like baby talk to them the whole time. We should talk normally so that they can learn and become better developed and not just hear the basics all the time. So reading aloud together is important in developing a baby's vocabulary. Books selected when reading together should go beyond favorite books, with selections made that provide new words and experiences. So think about your book in the context of being part of a library of other books that a family would have. And if you have a special little thing that has to do with like repeat words or learn words or do something that maybe isn't like the star loved book that they want to be read over and over again, but as a parent, you know, okay, this book is going to give us a little exercise to do together. That's fun and cool and looks great and is like a good experience, but it's also like, you know, it's kind of good for you. That's a place to go. So a book on words would be something worth considering. And then let's just talk quickly here about the benefits of sharing books with children, because that is the whole idea here. We're trying to inspire this interaction, and that's kind of DIRT's core mission with these baby board books. So we're trying to provide sensory stimulation and support of brain development. So it's really about, it is about that learning, brain development and heart development at the same time. We want to develop language. We want to create a joyful and loving connection between babies and toddlers and their loved ones. It nurtures a love of books and reading. We want them to grow up to love having a book in their room and in their backpack or in their classroom, and that they're always reading. If they're always reading a book for the rest of their life, what an amazing, great love habit they will have. So overall, too, we want to impart knowledge of the world and how it works. Now, this statement is probably more for our next book, where it's a little bit older. We start to tell stories, but I want that to be there. Like, we're here to provide not just academic learning or loving, nurturing experiences, all both very important, but also to empower the kid to understand the world better and to know what they have to face and how to better be able to face those things and navigate through life successfully, knowing what our world is about and how it works and what the dangers are and what the successes are. So some subject matter that are kind of popular with infants and toddlers, kind of the go-to list here is shapes, colors, faces, sounds, animals, feelings, things that go, places, letters, words, counting numbers, people, food. And as I talked about in class, you can pick any one of these and focus in on it, or a good experiment might be to like try to combine two that don't go together and see if that becomes a theme that you could become part of what your book is about. So just going through some of these examples, looking at this grid here now, I have to say I do want you to consider how important the cover is, and that it will be an object sitting on a shelf, sitting on the floor, and that cover thing is kind of almost, sorry, but I think you can judge a book by its cover in some cases, and if at least you can entice if you can't judge. And I think it's important. And I'm not saying I'm not saying this is an example of effective covers, but when I look at things like before and after, or say what, or even like what, okay, I want to know what's going on in there. Other ones have more things going on, so sometimes that's good, and but think about the sort of appeal of that. Like, this is where we go into our graphic design world, into our sort of minimalist world where we do things that are not necessarily practical. So having a badass cover is going to be important, I think. I think that would be something to consider and not just make it a throwaway thing. So when we look at some of these books, this is Say What, and I talked about this in class, and I thought it was just kind of a great thing where you take the sounds of animals and insects and take a really basic concept, sounds and animals, two things together, and then you design it through the lens of a graphic designer, of a communication designer, of a typography crazed person, and you basically take those onomatopoeia sounds. You have to go through and decide which ones they are. Not all animals make noises, unfortunately. And then you use typography and you find a way to illustrate. You almost put a restriction on yourself. You say the typography is going to be the star of this thing, and you could get stopped right there. But these are babies; they can't read. Like, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, because basically you're providing a tool for the grown-up to be like, okay, this is something that I could take and I can run with, and I can make these sounds, and I show the hidden animals and show the indices of what they do, whether it's their footprints or their flight patterns. And then the thing also is like to have that smart cover, like the Bite Me idea. This isn't Bite Me, it's Say What. It's got kind of a little bit of an attitude to it, or it's kind of like culturally cool. Say what, so I think that just makes it something that you want to pick up, or you want to say out loud, like a cool thing. Let's read Say What, and I think all those things, that's the recipe. Put all those things together, and then you get this really, really kind of cool experience. And then we look at another one here, and this is Shape of the World. And again, it's kind of about the idea of like using simple shapes and elements, using this kind of like design level of looking at the world through basic geometric objects and shapes that turn into like everyday parts of our world, homes and buses and ice cream and pets. And then kind of bringing in this idea of a math equation, like how things come together to become something different. And really it gives, like, again, an opportunity for the person delivering the story, the parent, the caregiver, the family member, to bring their voice to it, to bring extra to it, to talk about dogs, to make the dog noises if they want, to like be the owner of, have the agency to make the story whatever they want it to be. And then same one. Our next one, this goes two things, animals and feelings, and brings together those into a whole new world, and imposes our burden of feelings onto animals, which animals have feelings, maybe. I mean, they do, but I don't know what they're like necessarily, or they're different levels, but we make them more human. And we talk about the feelings we have, and we begin to help our young reader to understand who he is or who she is, and to understand that the world can be happy, sad, scary, exciting, and that we have this range of emotions, that knowing how to respond to our own emotions and knowing how to deal with fear or excitement is something that is just a lifelong needed skill that we're constantly learning how to deal with as we go through our lives in this world. So I think that's great. And then here, this is the idea of like learning to help exercise vision as a skill. And here it's like, I like the idea of like when you create a character that becomes kind of like your host through the story. So this little kind of gummy bear pant looking character becomes your friend, and you take them through the market, and you help them identify these kind of key simple produce market friends, we'll call them, and helps you bring, a name, helps you establish a name to these different foods or these different kind of animals, and takes you through like this idea of shopping with some text and some words and simple designs, and then gives you kind of like an activity at the end, like we went through that. Now, can you spot the tomato? Can you spot the radish? And then gives a chance for that to be a little longer lasting story. And again, but also has this kind of like cool contemporary look to it. And it's something that if it's in your newly made baby room and it's on the shelf, you're going to feel good about being a parent, because it's kind of lining up with your own personal brand. And then we talked about this also in class, this idea of thinking of some kind of subject matter that you can make be part of your story, and to provide more information, and to provide this information not with the goal of saying, okay, I'm going to teach a 2-year-old about Bigfoot. Like, obviously, you're not going to teach a 2-year-old about Bigfoot, but you are going to give the reader something that they're going to kind of love to read and talk about it. And then when they're 4, they're going to obviously be able to understand it and know about it, or even when they're 2 for that matter. But whenever it is, in the meantime, you can read it to them younger, or even if you buy it for them and they're already older. Like if you got to buy a gift for somebody and it's your 3-year-old or 2-year-old nephew or niece or neighbor's friend or whatever, you know that this book will kind of give them something that is kind of cool, interesting, and provides this cultural information about different monsters and mythological creatures from around the world. So it's kind of like a cool way to like take a small, simple idea and turn it into a nice little experience. Okay, and then speaking in flowers, we also looked at this in class. And again, this is also about really wanting to provide something of substance for the parent, for the caregiver, for the reader, and talking about different types of flowers, and showing those flowers, and having a visual experience that's going to connect to a young kid. But then talking about each flower and kind of the meanings of the flower from different cultures, and provide, even on the bottom there's a little smaller text that's really meant just for the adult to learn more about what flowers mean, and why they're named what they're named, and just give this kind of like beautiful nature inspired experience in teaching kids about flowers, like a book on flowers. That's just such a simple idea, and there's space for any idea like that that can become a book at this level. Okay. Okay, here's one we didn't look at that I think is actually quite good as well. And in this book, it's called Before and After. And I think just saying before and after already gives you an idea of what it is. And the cover does a good job of showing that. And in this book, it's great because it doesn't even use any words. Not that words won't be part of this book. It's not a silent book, but this will then shift over the responsibility of the reader to then talk about what the book is and what you're seeing. And what's really cool about this is that we can keep it both as an international book, like any culture, any person from anywhere in the world, anywhere on the planet can understand what this book is and can read it out loud. Or even it's what's even cooler is if part of our demographic might be parents who don't even know how to read yet, then that would be perfect for them. Here you can't see that there's a black on black lamp there that looks like it's turned off. It's just the light was hitting it. But that's before and after. And if you think, oh, I already thought of that idea, and oh, they did one, like, well, that doesn't matter. You can still do another version. That's your own version. Or use this as inspiration. But I think the key thing here is it could just be all visual. And I think that's kind of a cool technique. And then this is about, again, this more vegetable inspiration. We want to teach our kids about diversity in their food choices and healthy habits. And I think if we like Meet the Veggies, I think if we can make vegetables something that's cool and fun and of interest to kids, and they're gonna, if you can develop their taste, because it is developed, like if you let a kid decide they don't like vegetables, then that leads to a lifetime of like missed opportunity in terms of being a better, healthy person. So this one's not just about vegetables. In fact, vegetables are almost secondary to the color. So we take color and vegetables and fruits and we bring them together to start learning about different colors. And here there's also a little second line here that asks you to like look for something that's hidden in the drawing. So to have that extra little thing, sometimes you have like a main thing and then maybe you have a secondary thing where you're like, can you spot this? Can you spot that? Like little moments like that will bring a deeper level to the book. Okay, so all these books and more actually. So go through this on the YouTube channel. There's much more. I think it would be super helpful. I know part of my ask is in the assignment is to do research, and I'm all for if this is one of your books that you want to showcase as part of your research and talk about what you like about them and how it's inspiring you towards yours. This is fine to do. In fact, that would boost my ego. Okay, so let's talk a little techie here. Like as I said in class, as much as I would love this to be more of an experimental design class where you create a unique design that has the format's up to you, that the page count's up to you, that the amount of colors, that the surface treatments or whatever, that's a whole nother thing though. And that's part of design that I love too. But in this case, we're dealing with a commercial product that needs to be manufactured, and it needs to be manufactured at an affordable price so it could be provided to people for free or at an affordable price if you're buying it. And so we have a printer that creates these books, and they print them for us. And in case it wasn't clear in class, you guys aren't printing these books. Like we're not printing anything in this class. We're working on this print project, then we're going to get them printed through a baby board book printer and then through an online printer for our other book. And then our third project will be digital. Not that you can't print out your pages and look at them at that level. In fact, that would be great because it is different to see it on screen. But in terms of the design, it's going to be 5 5/8 by 5 5/8 a square. I'll provide you with a template when we get to that point. And it's going to be 16-page self-cover, meaning the cover and the back are the same thickness. And it's going to be just 4-color process, meaning it's just kind of like traditional printing. There's no special color. There's no metallics. There's no like shiny mirror effects. You can't do a mirror on the cover and say, this is me. We just can't print that. That's not that that's a bad idea, but it's not for this. There's no die cuts or fold out pages or stamps, or, you can't put a feather or fur on the cover. As cool as that would be to interact with a book like that, it's just not in And part of what we do with this book, we have to make it accessible for people. Okay, so keeping that in mind, let's dive into the assignment for the week. What we're going to do next week is we're going to have class and we're going to have everyone present their concept or research concept decks. And mostly research. Concept is just by words. But basically, I want you to create a deck like what you're seeing in the pages here on the right side. That you create a deck that's like 16 by 9. That's like a horizontal deck that goes on the screen. You can utilize Canva or PowerPoint or Google Slides, or even if you're like me, you'll make it in InDesign and make a PDF out of it. Any of that is fine as long as it's digital and it's horizontal, and that you create a template that's simple, that's clear, that's modernist, meaning I don't want you to dazzle me with how cool your typeface is on your presentation. I want that to be subdued in the same way, like when you walk into a gallery, you don't typically see cool wallpaper in the gallery. You see a white wall so that you can put the thing on the wall. So think of it that way. Create like a cover page at the front, a thank you page at the back. The first 2 pages will be, page 2 will be just a description of who DIRT is. I want you to have that in there. That'll help you remember what we're doing. Pirate that text from our website or from the resources in the assignment page. Just find, wherever you want to find that, like put who we are. And then on the 3rd page, put what the assignment overall is, what you're doing. I want that to be so that if somebody opens your deck who is not aware of the project, they would understand the brand, they'd understand the assignment, and they would be able to understand what you're presenting. So that's the first 3 pages. The next 3 pages will be your research. And I want you to go out there in whatever way you can, whether it's online, whether it's looking at the YouTube versions of our books that were designed by past students, or whether you're going out to a bookstore, or even better, you're invading your friends or relatives' library if you're nearby to somebody who has kids. Do some research about baby board books at the level that we're looking at the age level, and then find things that are interesting, that are inspiring, that you want to showcase into 3 case studies that put the book out there and talk about what the books are about. And then you can tell us what's inspiring you and what might be bringing ideas, whether they're concept ideas or whether they're visual design ideas. And then from there, I want you to do some design inspiration mood boards, we'll call them. On the 3rd row here, there's a visual inspiration for typography, for colors and illustration style. Not typography, that's the next page. Illustration style, and then the second one is for typography and colors. And then finally, I want you to have your concepts written as statements, and I'm suggesting 2 to 3. If you only have 1, I guess that's okay. I'm not sure if the A-making machine will probably keep going, but it has to be good, and it has to be, or you have to be open to changing it. But have a couple. Like, I think it's better for you to like challenge yourself to be able to see which is best. So just write down what the assignment, what your vision for your concept is, and how, describe your book concept in words. And I think that's a good exercise, because that also helps flesh out whether it is a good idea or not. And I want you to have good writing skills. So do that. So here's an example of a student's presentation for the very assignment. She created her own deck. Okay, it's brown. All right, I can see past that, but it's also nice and simple and utilitarian. She talks about DIRT. She puts a picture of Ernesto and I as the founders of DIRT there, so it helps me feel important. That's always good for the A-making machine. And then it just talks about who we are and the assignment. Then the next page, page number 3, what we're doing and why. And then it goes into the visual inspiration and looks at 3 different kinds of books. And then here's where you start to get to work. We'll go out there and look for inspiration for how you want to do your illustration. And you might even want to start, and you probably do want to start with your own illustration style. If you're kind of an illustrator already and you've got a set style and you've done assignments in the past, like utilize those. Show me the things that you think are going to be the techniques that you want to use for your book and the style you want to use to give a vision. And again, all this has to do with, and the reason I want you to show this stuff is because it's about collaborating with me as your creative director and as the client in this project. And so bring that together in a way that I can understand, and I can be with you, and I can offer suggestions, or other classmates as well. do the same thing with colors and type or whatever subject matter you want to put in there. It could be more than 2 pages if you want. And then here we see just one. Oh my goodness, just one idea, which actually she ended up doing and doing well. And we'll look at it in a second. But her idea was breakfast foods, and the idea of how like using breakfast foods as a visual theme to create these simple illustrations that are for the younger eye and mind attractive, but also for the grown up talking about the breakfast experience that is kind of a universal thing. And the cool thing is she said it could be a series. It could be lunch foods and dinner foods. So it kind of has legs. And then here's that ever important thank you page. And the reason I'm saying it's important is because I want all of us, including me, to always be in the mindset of gratitude and to be thinking about life in a positive cup half full way. And so knowing that we're always saying thank you, or we're thinking in a thank you way, is important for your success in design and in life. All right, so let's just look at the result here. This is the breakfast book. Like kind of, rushing to the end here. There's going to be more parts. We're going to use this book, I think, as the example for all the assignments we go through. But as you page through, you can kind of see that her vision comes to life using typography in a dynamic way, moving around with simple, anyone can do illustrations. It's not about like being some kind of like high level badass illustrator. It's about being a simple, minimal, relatable. It's about you having a good color palette and working that through. And sometimes that is harder than it looks. But having an experience of just kind of going through these breakfast foods and having shapes and colors and allowing for the parent to be able to express the story in whatever way they want. And, so that's that example. Okay, we're almost done here. And this is a long video. They won't always be this long. All right, so all of this has been written down on a very long assignment 1 on Canvas that you can read through. And it gives you everything we're expecting. But if you have questions and want to know more, then reach out to me. But dive into it. Hopefully you're already in the water, so to speak. But this is a vital part. If you can get a great idea right now, then that will ensure the best success for what you want to do. And I'm so excited to see what everyone does and participate in our first critique next week. We'll see you in class. But if you have any questions, Slack me or email me. I'll be happy to respond as soon as I can. But I'll see you guys then, and good luck.